Hey everybody, today we're going to be taking a look at the Sega Saturn game, AMOK. Now, AMOK was developed by... who was this developed by? I think it was Lemon. It was a part of Scavenger, which Scavenger was a mid-90s developer and publisher, or mostly developer. I don't really think they published their own games. They were just... Lemon was just a part of Scavenger. It was a team under Scavenger, and Scavenger usually pitched out their stuff to other companies. For instance, on the PC, I think this game was actually published by GT Interactive. I think it was published by them. And on the Saturn, this game was actually published by Sega. Sega had faith in these guys, and they published AMOK as well as Scorcher. Sega also, prior on the Genesis, I believe, also published Subterranea, which was also made by some of these guys. It was also developed by a team underneath Scavenger. So, AMOK, let me go ahead and start off to say that this isn't an extremely complicated game. For instance, the title screen is very basic here. There's just a solid picture in the background. You got your options, and you've got your password. There is password saves in this game. And that is basically it. And that was really a style that Scavenger and its teams used. Every game by them had really basic title screens, nothing special. But what's really cool about their games is that they're usually really technically advanced or really technically impressive. And that seem to push the hardware. I don't really know if they push the hardware because I'm not a techie like that, but everything they do just looks great and sounds great and runs great, and there was just a very slick style that they had on all their games, and it was easy to tell a Scavenger game from other games on the platforms, regardless of whatever platform it was. So now AMOK is a third-person shooter. It is sort of mech oriented, not really. I mean, you have this sort of mech, but it plays more like a fast-paced third-person shooter. You can strafe left and right by using the L and R controls. You've got A uses your missiles, which are limited, and then B uses your normal firepower, which is unlimited. Now, at the beginning of each stage, much like games like Subterranea on the Sega Genesis, you're basically given mission briefings at the beginning of each stage, and each mission throughout the game gets more and more complicated as you go on and more difficult. You've got things like destroy convoys or protect convoys or destroy certain parts of a city to get a certain kind of missile which will unlock or blow through another door at another part of the city, things like that. It's very light mission oriented, and that's actually kind of what I like about this game, is that it's mission oriented, but it's not the complicated kind. It's not the kind where you need to practice missions over and over and over again, or at least not usually. The difficult parts of this game come in the form of just lots of enemies firing at you at all times, and that's kind of what I'm more into when it comes to these kinds of games. So anyway, this is the very first level. I don't want to say it's sort of a training stage, but it does sort of get your feet wet, no pun intended. I mean, you are underwater. Your mech is this sort of, it's transformed into this sort of underwater sub kind of deal, but I'm going to go ahead and exit, which will take me to the next stage, and then I will be on land and walking, and I will be a little more mech-like. So I'm going to go ahead and skip through this briefing as well. And one thing you'll notice is there isn't a ton of loading. It loads fairly quickly, sort of. So there we are in the game, and here we go. This is AMOK. This is what the majority of the game is. You're normally on land just like this, and you can either walk or you can run. And you got various power-ups that increase your firepower, power-ups that give you more missiles, and other power-ups that do other things like make you invincible for a short period of time, and so forth. You've got little grunts you can walk on, literally walk on and kill them. You've got different camera angles, so there we go. Always fun doing that. But you've got different camera angles, again, like I said, depending on how you like to play. Some angles are better for other situations than others. It really depends, but I usually play from the default setting. It's a nice sort of overhead angle. But yeah, one thing you'll probably notice about this game is that it runs at an extremely fluid frame rate. It's a very brisk game, and that's how most scavenger games were. They looked great, and they had sort of graphical graphical styles that were different from other games at the time, but they ran great. The graphical styles were impressive, but the games just ran great, and that was really sort of a style of scavenger, or a trademark of scavenger games. Some people don't like scavenger games all that much, really. Some people think they're kind of boring and monotonous, and I can understand that. Even AMOK, I think it's a little, I don't want to say it gets a little repetitive, but it's definitely not a game that's for everybody, that's for sure. For one, I mean, the music is, while I think it's very good, it's very fitting of the game, and it's by Jesper Kyd, who went on to do stuff like the Hitman and the Assassin's Creed series soundtracks. It's very fitting for the game, and it's very high quality, especially for the time. It's very moody stuff, and it fits this sort of post-apocalyptic vibe that this game has going for it. So, but while I think it's good, other people probably aren't. They're gonna be like, "Oh man, I don't really like this kind of music or the graphical style or that." But me personally, I think everything is it fits, and the graphics especially are very they're different. What's the graph? There's a certain graphical style that this game uses where it uses voxels is what it's called, where it doesn't actually use 3D polygons. Now, I think your actual ship, I think that might actually be polygonal right there, but everything else uses voxels. And voxels are like, I can't really explain how it works, but if you just look at the canyons and the walls right here, they're really pixely, but they still have the illusion of depth. And it's bigger when you get closer to it, and it's smaller when you go farther away. And some people really complain about this graphical style, but I think it's great. For one, I mean, it gives the illusion of depth and things like that. And even though the draw distance isn't very far, the frame rate is just incredible. It's extremely smooth, which, I mean, again, not everybody's going to like this, but just think about it. Today's 2012. This game came out in, I believe, 1997 or so. How many games from that period are really still extremely playable today? And I can't think of a ton. I mean, there's definitely plenty, but a lot of the games from back then haven't aged all that well, and part of it's due to frame rate, things like that. And AMOK has aged beautifully in that regard, and I think the graphical style, the voxels, actually kind of holds up better than some of the the traditional polygonal looks of the time. And with the sort of polygonal hybrid where your ship is a polygon and the rest are kind of two-dimensional voxels, I think it meshes really well. You still get a three-dimensional look. It's not all sprite-based, or at least it's not sprite-based in terms of a game like Doom, where every enemy is a two-dimensional sprite. I mean, some objects, like that big thing I just blew up, were also made of voxels, so I could rotate around it and it would actually turn with me. So it's very, very cool stuff, in my opinion. So AMOK is mostly like this from what you see here for the rest of the game. You do go through varied environments. There's the next main stage after, I think there's another water environment, but after that water environment you go to a city stage, which is very cool, and the level is much larger, and the map in the top right hand corner really comes in use at that point. There is a point where towards the end of the game you are in like some underground sewers, and so forth. The game actually isn't overly long. It's not a huge game. It's kind of like Subterranea, where it might take a little while to complete the game just because you're not used to it, or the missions, you might fail a mission or something like that. But once you really get the hang of the game and you know exactly what to do, it's not nearly, it doesn't really take all that long. You might be able to get through the game in about 30 minutes. maybe even less depending on how quick you are, because again, you can try to speed run these games instead of killing every enemy and so forth. So it really depends on how good you are. But oh yeah, I forgot about the destructible, partially destructible environments depending on you know, what you're shooting at. So but anyway, guys, I'm going to go ahead and just wrap it up here. This is AMOK for the Sega Saturn. I'm sorry if I was kind of all over the place on this video, but it has been a little while since I played this game. I kind of wanted to bust it out just to do this video. Yeah, I'm actually trying to shoot for a secret right here. Hoping, I don't know, I'm aiming up, so I was hoping there would be a secret there, but I guess not. But yeah, guys, again, AMOK for the Sega Saturn. It also came out on the PC, and yeah, you know, that's really all I can say about this game. Again, Scavenger's stuff was really impressive. They also made one of my favorite Saturn racing games called Scorcher, and I've done videos on that in the past, but I'll probably eventually do a full-on review of that game. So if you'd like to see that, just I'll have a review on that in the future. That's definitely on the schedule of things. But yeah, check this out if you're if this looks interesting to you. It's not very expensive. I think the highest I've seen this sell for was about 15 bucks. So check it out if you want something new and different for your Saturn, or something technically impressive, at least technically impressive in my opinion. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. I'm going to say thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing and all that good stuff, and I'll be back with some more videos sometime soon. So until then, take it easy.